Find Croy Dragon and just wait a moment as I enable stream mode on Discord. Haha! Try annoying me now, you son of a bitch! Yes, well, carrying on. This is a choose your own adventure type game. So, yes, well, let's get started, shall we? This game takes place in the world of Tecumel, created by Professor M.A.R. Barker. The setting draws inspiration from historical cultures of South America and the Indian subcontinent. Though not well known, it is rich in detail with multiple countries, published languages, and history spanning millennia. Prologue: Sacrifice. A roadside shrine outside Sangmeyer, summer of 2365 AS. Outside, the sky is mercilessly bright, and the hot air full of all the varied sounds of an army ready to march. But inside this small shrine are coolness, darkness, and solitude. And peace, which is a rare and precious thing to find in these years since the usurper placed himself upon Solyanu's Petal throne, igniting a civil war. Before you stands a statue of your god, presiding over an altar on which other legionnaires have placed offerings. There are 10 gods in Solyanu, 5 who champion the cause of unchanging stability, and 5 who wish to bring about endless change. All are permitted their temples and honored on their holy days, but you and your family, like most Solyani, have a particular patron deity. Whose face do you look into? Okay, our choices are Lord Hanala, the illumination of all the world and supreme principle of stability; Lord Karakan, Lord of glorious war and the High General of stability; Lady Avantli, Mistress of Heaven and the Goddess of Women and Nature; Lord Heru, the dispenser of calamities and the supreme principle of change; Lord Remula, the power of destruction and red ruin, the Lord of Flame; and Lady de la Melish, the green-eyed Lady of fleshly joys and mistress of demons. Okay, what do you guys know? Of course, zero viewers, so I'll make a decision. The High Merudla lineage of the most aristocratic Sea Blue clan has worshipped Lord Hanala since the ancient days of the Empire of the Gods. The most notable of gods, or the most noble, the most noble of gods for the most noble of families. Lord Hanala calls upon his worshippers to fulfill their place in society with dignity and to strive industriously against change and decay, both in a spiritual sense and in the physical world. Kneeling before a statue of his 12th aspect, Bajan Kion, guardian of the Imperium and patron of the armies who scatter a handful of fresh, white blossoms and flawless quartz crystals upon the altar. And what brings you to Hanala's temple? Okay, so our choices are: I hope to lead my soldiers well in the coming siege. I want to find glory and promotion. I wish to return safely to my home and family when this is over. Oh look, down 0 people, so no one to ask. You beseech Hanala to extend his protection over you, promising more offerings to come if you make it home alive. Though few soldiers would admit it, many of them share this secret prayer. As you finish praying, the silence of the temple is disturbed by the faint scuffing of sandals upon stone. You turn in time to see a woman wearing the badge of an assassin's clan raise a blowgun to her lips. You duck as a poisoned dart whistles by your ear to plunk into the altar. You are alone in the small shrine and unarmored. Though your Chilen hide sword leans against the altar. This one again. You are alone in the small shrine and unarmored. Though your Chilen hide sword leans against the altar. Metal is too rare on Tecumel to be of common use, so soldiers fight with weapons cut from a tough hide which has been chemically treated to resemble soft bronze. To see the definitions of Solyani words, you can check the glossary in the show stats screen. Okay, our options are: I grab my Chilen hide sword and lunge for the woman in expert form. I cast the spell Invalation, sending forth a magical wall of force. I focus my psychic energies and time snows around me. Picking up my Chilen hide sword, I advance. Or I wrestle for 2 of my soldiers who are stationed outside. Oh look, stone 0 people, so... no one to ask. It is your deadliness in battle which has so impressed your superiors in the Legion of the Ruby Hand, and led to your rapid promotion to the rank of Kasai. With the element of surprise wasted, the assassin is at a disadvantage and you press the attack. Though momentarily off balance, the assassin displays the speed and trickery for which her kind are known. You find yourself flagging in the face of her attack. Okay, and choices are: I fight defensively and wrestle for soldiers stationed outside, or you must be mistaken. She may be talented, but I am one of the finest fencers in the Empire. Oh, like Stone 0 P1, so, of course, can't ask anyone for an opinion. Kasakoi are expected to be tactical thinkers, as well as physically powerful, and you are no exception. By focusing purely on defense, you negate any difference in skill, and the assassin is soon flanked by 2 of your soldiers. Realizing too late her position, she looks around for a route of escape. The options are here: death is a fair price for an attempt on my life. I motion for my soldiers to grab her. I lunge, stopping my sword inches from her throat. Do you yield? These are lonely streams. The assassin looks into your eyes, showing no fear. If you let me live, I promise my clan will return the payment and not make another attempt upon you. The options are: I let her go, and I have changed my mind. She cannot be left alive. I let her go. She bows deeply to you and walks from the shrine. Assassination is legal in Solyanu, so no one stops her. It seems anticlimactic somehow. So why would someone send an assassin after you anyway? The options are: I killed a rival for the sake of my beloved. The weak envy the strong. I don't have time to enumerate every grievance brought against me by lesser men. I prevented an injustice, or I killed a man in anger and deeply regret it. While assassins are only supposed to take commissions which redress ignoble action, it is a truism that all men are corruptible. Having failed to gain his revenge in the courts, your powerful enemy uses his fortune to send greedy assassins after you on the flimsiest of pretexts. Thus far, you have been lucky in surviving such attempts. The next day sees your legion marching down one of the large fortified Sackby roads which serve in peacetime as rivers of trade between the cities of the Empire and in war, as defensible walls guarding its provinces. Behind you is the stone guard tower, at which you took your noon meal, which ahead of you the road snakes away toward the horizon. The top tier of the Sack Bay is unoccupied except for occasional runners sprinting by on imperial business. Most of the ranking officers ride in palanquins carried by slaves upon the middle tier, but the soldier and the baggage train move slowly along the road of well-torn stone at the base of the wall. As a Kasai of the Legion of the Ruby Hand and a commander of Surum of 400 soldiers, you may choose to travel in stone if you wish. Options are, I am riding in my palanquin, or I am marching with my soldiers, and luck still no one to ask for an opinion. Most officers would jump at the chance to ride in comfort and socialize with their superiors, but not you. Why? I'll lead from the front and share my soldiers' tribulations. In this way I won't stand out in the eyes of my superiors. I want to see how things stand with my serum, with my own two eyes, or I enjoy marching. I lead from the front and show my soldiers' tribulations. This outlook has made you popular with your men and women, but some of your superiors worry that you are not upholding the dignity of your office in the chain of command. A few of the bolder Herexa approach with conversational gambits in the manner of wine merchants offering a vintage for evaluation. The first couple miles pass in small talk, but as the afternoon proceeds, you are left alone with your thoughts, which naturally settle upon the recent attempt upon your life. From there it is a small step to thinking about the months after your naming day celebration, and the unfortunate incident that resulted in the assassination attempt. Chapter 1, Youthful Folly. Chakala, spring of 2355 AS. Your childhood in the great clan house of Sea Blue was pleasant. The household possessed plenty of slaves to do menial toil and an abundance of wealth. Your numerous mothers and fathers, your parents' siblings, and their spouses lavished affection upon you. During the day, you were taught reading, writing, maths, and history at the temple school of Lord Hanala. In the evenings, you slept in the comfortable dormitories with your clan cousins, other children of the clan, most of them unrelated to you by any close blood tie. Many of the older adolescents on the verge of adulthood snuck between the boys' and girls' dormitories to warm each other's beds, and in the past year you had begun to join in this pastime. The night before your Katunjalam, or naming ceremony, found you sneaking into your clan cousin Rave's bed. Where were you coming from, and where were you heading to? Not gonna ask for an opinion for this. I slept with the other boys, but was visiting Rave in the girls' dormitory. The spring nights were chilly and damp, and though the dormitories were heated by small braziers and the many bodies sleeping within the air in the corridor between the two buildings made you shiver as you tiptoed across. Once inside the girl's sleeping room, you found Rave's mat. She was still awake, waiting for you. Tiyuni, I was worried you were mad at me and were not coming tonight, she whispered. You thought how strange it would be that after tomorrow no one would ever call you Tiyuni again. There was pride in the idea that you would finally have an adult's name and an adult's responsibilities. Earlier that day, you had found Rave gambling with some of the other girls in one of the courtyards. Her brown eyes sparkled under black bangs that bobbed as she laughed, scooping up her winnings. You knew that her mothers would not have approved of gambling, and worst of all, she had placed in a small ceramic amulet of Tahili, the Maid of Beauty, the patron of young girls and... I'm fine. Let's try again. The patron of young girls and first romance that you had given her in the pot. After one of the dice had been thrown and she had won, Rave had claimed she had only bet it because she had known it would bring her luck. But as Rave slipped the amulet around her neck and gathered up her winnings, you had stormed off with tears in your eyes. Though Rave was beautiful and clever, she could also be spoiled, sure that her winning personality could get her out of any situation. Now she was looking up at you with a vulnerable worry, different from the brash assurance of earlier in the day. Okay, our choices are... I cannot stay angry with you. You hurt my feelings, Samari, when you do not value my gifts, or if you ever do something like that again, we are through. Oh look, still 0 viewers, so... I'll go with I could not stay angry with you. Rave smiled invitingly and pulled back the sheet to welcome you under. I knew you would understand. Her smile was like the sun, coming out from behind the clouds, a joyous grin that made your heart speed faster and promised an evening of sweet delight. The birds were chirping in the pre-dawn darkness before you fell asleep that night. The next thing you knew, cold water was startling you out of sleep. Sputtering, you looked up into the face of your elder brother, Guyan, smiling down at you. Sleep well, little brother, or did you not sleep at all? Here he leered at Rave and raised his eyebrows. Guyan fancied himself a comedian. Well, I have come to break you two apart. Mother Hale is in a state of distraction over the fit of your formal dress, and has told me that if I do not bring you back immediately, she will feed me to a Zerne. Oh, he looked again at Rave, and your parents wish your company as well. Without waiting for a response, Guyan grabbed you by the arm and dragged you from the barracks. You were barely through the door before Mama how's that pronounced? Hale? Before Mama Hale was fastening a jeweled Chilean hide collar over your shoulders and arranging a kilt around your waist. As she eyed and adjusted its drape, she barraged you with unsolicited advice about the upcoming ceremony. Tiyuni, you must keep your posture during the parade and during the feast. The headdress will be heavy, but you must look regal. And afterward, do not drink too heavily or indulge in the powders. There will be 10 of you getting your names today, and half of Jakala has turned out to see you. And you must be the most shining youth present. On and on she chattered. Mama Hale was your birth mother's sister, a plump woman with an easy smile who had raised you since you were an infant. The other mother, Zaleh, and declared herself an Eridani of her own naming ceremony, and so taken on rights and responsibilities normally reserved for men. She had joined a legion, marched to war, while her sister elect. She had joined a legion and marched to war, while her sister elected to remain a good clan girl and accept the more traditional role for women. Halle was a ward of the clan, could not own property, and cannot be sued or challenged to a duel, but she was still a formidable personality, actively involved in the work and social life of Clan Sea Blue. And now all of her realm was bent on getting you through the day without a misstep that might provide fodder for gossips and lower your family's prestige within the clan house. How did you feel about the celebration? The options are: I was excited to be an adult but just wanted to survive the day without disgracing myself. I was always up for a good party and meant to enjoy myself. I knew this was my chance to impress my clan elders and the rest of the city's notables. What should I choose? Give me a moment to think about this. Having someone in chat to offer me opinions would really be helpful. What? What the hell? I've been streaming for 23 minutes. How is it only now it's getting a notable and a notification I'm doing so in East Coast Gaming? Who designed this turkey? Oh god. Probably means it's only showing up on Twitter now. Let's see here. What the hell? Why? When I start streaming, notifications should show up early. Ugh. Not 24 minutes in. Hold on, let's... Just gotta check something. make any bloody sense. Makes no bloody sense at all. IFTT, please tell me I'm... It's on! So why exactly hasn't it shown up on my Twitter? Why is everything so slow? Oh, forget it. Let's just carry on. I was excited to be an adult, but just wanted to survive the day without disgracing myself. It is funny now as a veteran of battles to look back on the youthful importance you attach to your Katanjalim, but at the time the idea of stuttering or worse yet tripping under the weight of the formal wear was mortifying. The morning passed in a nervous blur. At one point you saw Rave herded along a corridor by all 8 of her parents, but there was not time to speak. Finally, you found yourself joining the other 9 soon-to-be adults for the procession through the city. The city of Jakala lies on the delta of the Equatorial River, facing out over tidal flats in the Bay of Jakala. Jakalans consider the goddess Tlamelech their city patron, and see their town as the most cultured in Solianu. Thus, as Sea Blues parade round through the city streets, it attracted an entourage of curiosity seekers, revelers, and entertainers. By the time you had returned to your clan house, the parade had swelled to become a mob. Your clan elders had anticipated this, and while only the most exalted of noble families would celebrate and dine with you inside a vast feast with associated entertainments, was set up in the courtyard. Monstrous Tessar beasts roasted over fire pits, drops of their juices crackling as they hit the flames, and filling the air with savory smells. Bread was handed out and wine flowed freely. It is by such largesse that the lower clans are kept peaceable and in awe of mighty Sea Blue. The noble guests filed through a vast room, with frescoes upon the plastered walls, and an intricate mosaic upon the floor up a grand marble staircase, and onto a terraced rooftop garden. Here the spring breezes could flow freely, but the walls and roofs of the surrounding buildings blocked prying eyes. The guests arranged themselves on a series of raised daises under peaked pavilions according to rank, while the 10 of you stood beneath a bower. There you waited, still and proud, on display as what seemed like every notable in Jakala filled in. When all were seated, a hush descended. A grey-haired man, dressed in finery of the 19th form of dress, stood, bowed to priest's rating beside the bower, and began to speak. He orated upon the ancient roots of Clan Sea Blue in the days of the Benelgian Empire, on the histories of the lineages of each young man or woman standing before him, on the virtues of duty to the clan, of honour and dignity. Finally, when you felt your knees must buckle from supporting the massive weight of your jewelled and feathered headdress, he approached the first youth. In turn, each name was read from a scroll, and a sacrifice was passed from a waiting slave to the youth, and from there to a priest of their faith. When the elder came to stand before you, what name did he read out? Okay, our choices are Achan, Firu, Kamar, Manektu, Turasan, Zurak, or none of these? What do you, and of course it's just me to keep an eye on everyone. So just go with action. An excellent and noble name. And what offering did you present? A fearless... Fearless? Ugh. A flawless clear diamond that my mother Zaleh captured while away at war. A delicate white orchard from the Chechen jungles, or a white lesson gauze priest's robe. Still just me, so... A fearless clear diamond... Ugh, jeez. Okay, after this chapter I'm grabbing a drink of water, so I'm not gonna be hoarse by the time I'm done this stream. As the priest accepted the diamond, your elder read out, "The ancient and exalted clan of Sea Blue is proud to welcome its newest member, Achan Harmawadla Otulengba." At his joyous shout, the crowd repeated in a chorus, "Otulengba, all hail!" The ritual of naming was repeated for the next clan cousins. The elder stood before Rave, who presented the priests of Lord Hanala with a necklace of milky white moonstones. The elder then read from the scroll, "The ancient and exalted clan of Sea Blue is proud to welcome its newest member, Sayi Haitankolel Otulengba." Once more the crowd shouted approval. Soon the ceremony ended, and attention drifted away from the newly named adults and onto more important things like fashion, gossip, trade, deals, and news of the war with the country of Yankor. Mama Zali came forward and gave you a tight hug, as did her husbands Vasan and Payur. But she had just arrived that morning after 2 years away, and it was not long until social obligation dragged them all off. You found yourself left to your own devices. Various rooms in the clan house were set aside for puppet shows, poetry readings, and a display by dancers. How did you occupy yourself? Options are: I looked for Sayi. I went to watch the puppet show. I went to see the dancers. I went to go and listen to the poetry reading. Still just me. So I looked for Sayi. She was looking for you as well, and you both made a fine display as you explored the party. Sayi was clearly enjoying acting the part of a sophisticated adult, an effect that was only ruined by occasional grins and laughter. Now that you young lovers were reunited, where did you venture? I went from the puppet show, I went to see the dancers, or I went to go listen to the poetry reading. Oh look, still just me. Dancers. In a tiled courtyard, young men and women adorned in transparent green, very little of it, danced to the music of drums and a stringed centurion. The silver bells upon their anklets greeted their own tune as they swayed and stamped in unison. There were many stories in Jakala of nobles who have risked their wealth, social standing, and even lives from the favor of a skilled dancer, and those hired by Clan Sea Blue are very skilled indeed. The dancers continued their display, at times languorous, at others frantic. It was all intensely erotic, and made you very aware of Sayi sitting next to you, resplendent in all her finery. Sayi must have been thinking the same thoughts. The looks between you two became more smouldering, and by mutual consent you left the party to return to the dormitory, where you had a great deal of fun discovering how to remove formal dress of the traditional 19th form. Okay, I know it said next chapter, but it doesn't really say it, but even then, I need water. As the spring following your naming day progressed, you found yourself in a strange position. With the rights and respect of an adult, but few responsibilities to occupy your time, all knew that Dazai intended to purchase you a military commission, which would immediately carry you away to the Yan Koryani front, and so there seemed little point in involving you in the clan's business. How did you spend your days? I relaxed and socialized with my peers, enjoying a last taste of city life. I practiced my swordplay in preparation for battles to come, or I read works of strategy by great generals. Excuse me. It was while you reclined in the shade of the courtyard, immersed in a scroll on the proper way to ford water under enemy fire, that Sayi ran to you, face tear-streaked and eyes red. Oh, Tayuni, I am in such trouble. I have lost a small fortune at the House of Shining Joy. Matan hosts an exclusive room there, beautiful and refined, with gold-washed window screens and ivory inlaid tables, and everyone was so pleasant. Her words ran over each other as she spoke with a mixture of panic and wistful memory. A golden Lintown banker, this one again, a golden Lintown banker let me take out a line of credit. At first she was so understanding of my return of bad luck, but then she became rather cold and impertinent, and she said she would be appealing to my clan for payment of my debts. What should I do? The options are rate who's less Motan. How could you be so stupid? You need to go tell the clan elders before she does, and we need to solve this problem before they find out. Oh, Lux, don't just me. When Sayi turned her luminous eyes upon you at this pronouncement, you felt as tall as Annalus, and as brave as Pandarte of Keris. Instantly reassured by the advent of a plan, she told you where to find the Golden Town clanswoman. Evening's cool shadows contrasted the day's heat, still radiating off the brick streets as you walked to the House of Shining Joy. The building was a shabby winehouse in poor repair, but gilded over with opulent torches. Stepping into the vestibule, you found a pleasantly gurgling fountain where patterned fish cavorted among coins. In one quarter, a Keshaun bird perched in a gold-painted cage, its magnificent, multicolored tail feathers hanging to the floor. I asked the Golden Lantern clanswoman summoned to me, or I asked for admittance to Martin's room. Oh, Lux, don't just me. So, An obsequious servant moved forward to bid you welcome to the establishment, and upon hearing your request, disappeared into one of the many private rooms of the wine house. After a moment, he returned to escort you into a small chamber, where you were seated upon a flatteringly high stack of cushions with a cup of wine at your right hand. A wrinkled woman in the dreary garb of a medium clan looked up with an ingratiating smile. Honourable youth, how may I be of service to you? You can erase the death of my cousin now, or let us better talk of how I can be of service to you. Oh look, still just me. With brusque formality and using the pronoun which signifies discriminating contempt for your listener, you demanded an apology for excuse me. You demanded an apology for her role in preying upon a high clan youth, intimating dire consequences if events were not made right. The moneylender seemed unimpressed by this show of bravado. Do you know how many times a week young people like you, with neither decorum nor sense, nor caiters to pay their debts, come here, expecting to be able to threaten their way out of their messes? Too many, I assure you, and yet every time it is me and their clans on the law side with, they who ultimately pay the price of such folly. The elder lady clapped and scarred. The elder lady clapped, and the scarred rotund gladiator entered the room. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea, I thought, or I'd see how smug she was with a sword at her throat. In a smooth movement, you stood and drew the Chlenhide sword given to you by Dazai, as a naming day present, and you lunged forward. This one again. As you lunged forward, the gladiator sprang up to interpose. His bulk bowing the floorboard when he landed. In that moment of landing, he was well off balance, and you kicked him in his ample stomach, forcing out his breath. Before he could recover, you had grabbed the old woman and positioned her between you two, your sword pressed against her. Please, I submit to your realm. I should never have given offense, but the debt has been registered with my clan, and I cannot erase it in its entirety. I can, however, use my influence to have it reduced to half the amount, based on a more favorable rate. Surely such a respected clan as Sea Blue would cover such a sum with little thought. The offer was a tempting one, and if you had not promised Saeed to protect her reputation, perhaps you would have taken it. Instead, you made a dismissive gesture. Do not think to dicker with me over math as if it were some... Do not think to dicker with me over math as if I were some common peddler. To pay even the smallest fraction of this debt would besmirch the good name of my beloved clan cousin. Closing her eyes tightly in mumbled prayer, your hostage took a steady breath. It is not I who took her coins. If it is the honour of the matter that concerns you, then your argument is with Martin. It is not known to all gamblers of Jakala that he is a cheat, reduced to preying upon novices with weighted dice and narcotic-laced wine. I know the names of some he has cheated, and who would testify against him. None with the social rank to bring a case on their own, but respectable enough to corroborate charges if you make them. I shall help you if you spare me. There would be little shame to Sayi in being the victim of crimes such as this, and the money won in court could easily cover her debt and would go to town. Were you satisfied? Yes, it was beneath me to hold a grudge such a functionary. Or hardly, this cowardly predator has to die. Oh look, still just me. The old woman sat down upon her low, flat cushion, waving her guard back to somnolent repose, and chewing on a haneko leaf to calm her nerves. In a low voice she related the names and clans of various temple students and low-level functionaries and such swindled by Martin, and promised to persuade her clan to cease pursuit of the debt until after the court case. The suit against Martin was quickly taken out of your hands and put into those of the clan lawyers. Word came of a settlement one twilight as you sat reading in the gardens. "Cousin," called the apprentice law scribe, "Martin's clan settled on paying Shamtla to us. I think they saw the scavengers circling at the scent of blood and wished to end the entire affair before they became mired in countless suits. A good thing, too, if we had gone to the civil court, it would have been who knows how many years and filings and questionings before the judges were satisfied." He grinned. "I came to you first because I thought you might wish to carry the news to Sayi yourself and get a hero's due reward." Let's see here. I went to ease Sayi's worries with glad tidings. I went to tell her of this last service and end things between us. Or I felt no need to see her at all and washed my hands of her. Still just me. With a shriek of joy, she leapt across her parents' room to entangle you in a fierce hug. Words of gratitude and promises of redemption were showered upon you. With a polite firmness, her parents requested some time alone to digest the information. The looks cast your way were full of admiring gratitude, but a steady coldness was directed toward Sayi as you retreated down the halls of the living quarters. 8 voices rose together in disapproval and censure to crash down upon Sayi, legally an adult but still her parents' child. I'm just gonna take a short break here. Break over. Let's carry on. Chapter 2, Adult Responsibilities. Chakala, summer to winter of 2355 AS. Your clan Melodazai was an honored veteran of the prestigious Legion of the Ruby Hand. She greased your path in the palms of recruiting officers, so that you would, when your name day passed, march into the recruiting office of the local Palace of Glorious War and enlist as an officer. The office was bustling with activity in that time of coming conflict. All the legions were pressed for troops, and many young women and men were eager to answer the call to war. Heart-pounding throat dry. Gripping your letter of recommendation, you pass the tables and broad standards of competing units, and struggling to keep your voice even as you inform the board recruiting officer of your name, lineage, and clan. Looking up from his seat, a pile of well-worn campaigners' mats over piles of personnel rolls and enlistment forms, the wrinkled veteran ignored your carefully prepared letter and shouted, "Oh, hey, Sprout! What makes you think you're good enough to join the 15th? Fine young men and women from all the best clans have waited in line all day for the privilege. Why should our glorious legion waste its time on an untried lump of mud like you?" I bribed the corrupt old fool the appropriate amount. I put him in his place, or I cited Lyurane of Samra. Oh look, still just me. Okay, let's see here. What shall we choose? What shall we choose? A great officer can build strong earthworks from soft mud. Oh, hey, men. Mokardazai said her brat was studious. The old soldier replied with good humor. He handed your enlistment papers to you, stamped with your new rank of Herexa, Lieutenant. His sergeants nodded to you with respect as they took you away for processing. Nothing in the sheltered life of a young noble had prepared you for the exhaustion and humiliation of legionary training. Never before had social inferiors dared to shout at and insult you. Nothing you did was ever good enough, the hours were long, and the food was terrible. You were not even permitted body slaves to dress you and clean your equipment. Your days were filled with endless marching as sergeants beat the complex formations and trumpet calls required of Soldani infantry into your young skull, sometimes literally. Still, you cannot look back on those first days but with some nostalgia. Yeah. The choices are: I followed orders and did my did I almost say did my best? Don't worry, sir, I'll do my best. Ugh. I followed my orders and did my best to bring honor to Mama Desai's name. Or I used wit, charm, and expected endorsements to win promotion quickly. Inducements. I used wit and charm and expected inducements to win promotion quickly, or I was determined to lead a life of pleasure and joy. Oh, look, still just me. Your clan Muller expected no less of you. Your drowned sergeants showed you grudging respect, and your fellow recruits learned to follow your example. Near the end of your training, you were chosen for a signal honor to join your superior officers on the command stand during a Kadarni, a little war, or live weaponry exercise against another legion. Kasai Naroman Haichika welcomed you grandly, bestowing his august favor upon your youthful self, despite the fact that he was only 6 months older. A scion of the royal Haichaka lineage of your own clan of Sea Blue, he held such lofty status that it besmirched his personal honor to speak freely with the common soldiers. He would rely upon younger adjutants like you from less lofty lineages to communicate his orders to the troops in all but the direst of emergencies. Despite your shared clan, the captain's foreign lineage outranks your own, and it seemed he would not easily let you forget it. Kasai the Roman was reading that morning from a well lacquered scroll held up for his pleasure by his pre-adolescent valet, a painfully eager low-clan cobbler's daughter named Rayana. For your benefit, he translated with great erudition into modern Soliani the 10,000-year-old wisdom of the great Samarin of Kyrus on the necessity of daily drill to turn civilians into soldiers. You could not help but notice that little Rayana was mumbling along under her breath. Astonished at her cheek, I reprimanded her on his behalf. I politely inquired on my Kasai how she had learned the verses, or I disregarded the eccentricities of my new superior. Oh look, still just me. No, that's not. No, not Discord. Here we go. Your Kasai marked his place on the scroll with his finger and smiled. Ah yes, young Rayana has applied herself most studiously to the writings of the great masters, although only a servant from a poor clan of leather workers, was it? Nevertheless, she is eager to learn the virtues of the strategist and the tactician. We of noble clans have an obligation to serve as examples to the lesser orders. Herexa. Pleased with your etiquette, he resumed his oration. The green troops fell into their formation with eagerness, if not skill. Kasai the Roman conveyed his orders to you through a combination of code words and hand signals, and you in turn passed them to signalers with trumpets and to runners who bore them down from the command platform into the arrayed ranks of your infantry. Although this was only an exercise against another of the Petal throne's units, you and your fellow recruits were anxious to bring glory to the century's great name of the Legion of the Ruby Hand. During the exercise, Kasai the Roman unexpectedly turned to you and stated, General Gariga appears to have chosen the clause of Gambit, hoping to outflank us on both sides. Tell me, Herexa, how would the masters tell us to respond? Can't choose that, so we've only got two choices. I ungratingly assured him that I was now to learn from his example, or as it just in the Crystal Square, to defend our troops from the attempted outflanking. Oh look, still just me. Little Rayana, who stood by with a pitcher of cool Chumeton for Kasai the Roman, suddenly dropped it. Blushing, she stooped to gather up the pottery shards, loudly begging pardon for her clumsiness. In the midst of this performance, she whispered harshly from the side of her mouth, Hold fast, giving you a bold grin and a wink. Let them break their claws against our strength. No other choice. Kasai the Roman nodded in approval. Round spotted, Herexa. Lord Samarin advises us that a love of clever stratagems is a weakness in an unschooled commander. Lord Gurega seems to have skipped that verse. It is found you did not. Pleased with your command of the classics, the Kasai allowed you to stand just below him on the platform to observe your legion's victory over the enemy's overextended formation, while little Rihanna beamed in secret victory. The Legion of the Ruby Hand enjoyed a well-deserved celebration in its camp. Prostitutes of all sexes and inclinations, wine and powders, and whole roasted Hema sheep, all were generously provided by your proud General Bashuran High Samarin. What is more, your legion was to have pride of place in the local celebration of the Might of Heroes, a parade of soldiers honoring Lord Karakan, god of glorious war. He spent several days making certain your ceremonial armor and weapons were painted and polished. And when the day of the parade came, despite the heat, the dust, and the many miles of marching required, you were as happy as you could ever remember. Your entire clan gave a mighty shout of Otolengba as your unit marched past the clan house, and in that instant you felt as mighty as Lord Karakan himself. Rumor and gossip had not prepared you for the ultimate honor of that day. The imperial heir whom your clan supported, the famous wit and patron of the arts, Prince Rerishkala of Jakala, waited, borne upon a golden palanquin by hundreds of slaves, personally to cast eyes over your legion in the great square of Jakala, and cast blessings upon you as you marched by. Several of your comrades, stunned by the singular experience of marching for the pleasure of a scion of the Petal throne, actually swooned when they recognized the imperial seal upon the massive, many-tiered palanquin, and the colors and badges of their imperial heir. You were made of sterner stuff, however, weren't you? I worship the great prince from afar. I talked up my clan's connection to the prince. I talked up my clan's connection to the prince to boost my own cachet. Or I determined to meet the great prince at the celebration, using my clan's connections to sweep me into the imperial presence. Oh look, still just me. Guess I'll go with I worship the great prince from afar. Your fellow officers in years to come grew very familiar with the treasured story of how you personally received the blessing of an imperial heir in the halcyon days before the Civil War. As you marched past the vast palanquin, Prince Verishkala reclined, watching with a smiling mouth and calculating eyes. Despite his reputation as somewhat effete, he was a massively strong man whose presence radiated authority. Months later, you and the other recruits had truly completed your induction training, and your commanding officers let it be known that a special informal celebration would not be appropriate. Rather than eating in the barracks as was usual, you and your fellow new officers decided to rent a suite at a winemaker's clearing house, and pooled your funds to provide alcohol, powders, prostitutes, and food for your troops. The common soldiers would, of course, remain in the courtyard with most of the entertainers, while the higher clan subalterns and officers would have the proper sitting daises and more refined diversions inside with a separation befitting their dignity. Their troops were appropriately grateful for this largesse, and the shouts and laughter of their enjoyment did not disturb you too much. Providing wine, company, and music for the troops did not come cheaply. What did you take in the evening celebration? What role did you take in the evening celebration? I spent my allowance generously to be certain that the troops were happy. I saved my guitars for outfitting the equipment in the coming war, or I threw myself wholeheartedly into the celebration, making certain to be seen and appreciated by the troops. Still just me. The soldiers guzzled wine and gorged themselves on whole spit roast hammer, ogled the dancers, and demanded songs of martial victory from the musicians, well into the night. When you and your fellow officers had shared the expense, your subalterns, let it be known that their Herricksaw did not stint on rewarding the soldiers from his carang. The local clan house of the Blue Curtain was well used to hosting large parties, and to providing privacy to its guests. The celebration on the night in question retained even its resources, however. Another unit, the Legion of the Blue Peak, had also booked rooms to celebrate. You learned of this when you collided with a young Kasai in the halls, splashing fragrant liquor upon his uniform. "Steady on!" he laughed, gripping your elbow. "Sorry to have almost trampled you. I was a bit lost in my thoughts. On my way out for some air, if you'd care to join me." "It is a bit close in here, why not? I'm afraid I must get back to my friends, or..." That was where Suhoridu you spelled, idiot. It is a bit close in here, why not? As you walked side by side to a balcony overlooking the street, you noticed him surreptitiously taking in your rank and clan badge. "I am Kasai Narun," he said, "of Blue Girdle. Achin, see blue," he replied, looking out over tiled roofs and hanging lanterns. The winter air was cool on your perspiring skin, a relief from the humid hotness of inside. Beside you, Narun recited a line of poetry beneath his breath, then silently drank in the scenery. After the fevered partying inside, it was nice to clear your head, to stop and be in the moment. Excuse me. "I hear there are snows on the mountains of Yankor this time of year," said Narun. "That would be a sight to see." He was interrupted when a soldier in the colours of the 15th came pounding down the hall. Breathlessly nursing a swollen eye and jaw, she slammed her fist to her chest and straightened her arm in salute, then stammered, "Herricksaw, the troops are fighting the Legion of the Blue Peak soldiers in the courtyard. Live weapons." When you listened for it, you could dimly hear shouts and clacking of Chilan-hide weapons against one another. Hurrying into the courtyard with Narun a step behind you, you were greeted by the sight of men and women in uniform, variously wrestling, kicking, shouting, and in one flagrantly criminal case, sword fighting. Shrieking slaves fled the mayhem, wine and blood mingled on the flagstones, and several soldiers already lay motionless over scattered food and shattered pottery. A soldier in the uniform of the Legion of the Blue Peak knocked one of your men into the dirt, shouting, "The men of the Legion of the Ruby Hand fight like pretty slave girls." How did you respond to the insult to the 15th's honor? I joined my soldiers in avenging this insult. I ignored the drunkard. My chief concern was preventing a riot. Or I let soldiers blow off steam. It was no concern of mine. I joined my soldiers in avenging this insult. As a proud young officer of the time-honored Legion of the Ruby Hand, you cannot allow this insult to go unanswered. How did you force the rioting soldiers of the Legion of the Blue Peak to submit? I used my personal prowess, or I formed my soldiers into a wedge, intent on bringing the sword fighters down as quickly as possible. All those hours of trumpet drones and coordinated marches paid off beautifully, as your neatly dressed lines became a tight wedge forcing the brawling soldiers apart. The Legion of the Blue Peaks troops quickly lost their taste for mayhem when they saw your legionnaires bring down the sword fighters with unified and controlled force. They would not soon again insult the courage or professionalism of your legion. You had averted a full-blown riot at the House of the Blue Curtain. Your last glimpse of Kassar Narun was of him shepherding soldiers toward the door. He looked back over his shoulder and your eyes met. His gaze was measuring as he turned to go. One morning came, and with it a return to sobriety. The soldiers of both legions were overcome with shame and remorse. Your superior officers decided to err on the side of morale, and to make no further mention of the incident since no one was seriously hurt. The House of the Blue Curtain received some substantial and quiet inducements from the generals of both legions to keep the rumors to a minimum. You received no official commendation for your actions, but the talk in the general's tent clearly benefited the course of your career. Alright, just going to take a short break. Okay, break over. A month. So little notice they give us before they whisk you away, chided Mama Halle, as she watched slaves arrange your Godroo silk kilt and fashion the gilded pectoral about your neck. It gives us barely enough time for a decent wedding, and with so many young people heading off at once, the competition from the best artisans will be fierce. An officer of a good clan in a city, suddenly passionate about matters military, you were a very eligible match. The clan of your intended was pushing for the marriage, arranged when you were 5 to be consummated before the war carried you away. As such, you found yourself being draped in cloth and weighted down with jewellery. Though no headdress, thank Lord Hanala, in preparation to meet your betrothed. I was excited to be married. A spell. Spell? A spouse to live at home and manage clan affairs and children is very useful to a military officer who, like most Sonyani, lives a life far from the bonds of clan and yet is no less reliant upon them. While the dressers busied themselves about you and Mama Halle extolled the many virtues of marriage, you imagined a tiny apartment to return to filled with wives and children. Monogamy is not prized in Sonyanu. Jealousy, viewed as a shameful emotion, and it is not uncommon for men and Eridani women to take a second or third husband to arrive later of their own choosing. With the far-known critical luck and some personal adjustments to the drape of your kilt, Mama Halle gave her misty-eyed approval and escorted you to the sitting room. Ian sat upon a high stack of cushions, plucking at the non-existent lint on her perfectly pleated grey kilt. She was thin and gangly looking, and the fashionable clone straight upon her frame. Her eyes raised to meet yours as you entered, then fell again. Thank you for welcoming me to this one again. Thank you for welcoming me to your clan house. The Blue Girdle are honored by this alliance. She recited woodenly from memory before returning to examining the weave of her kilt. I saw to my hostly duties and tried to stimulate conversation. I sat quietly, as well having nothing to say, or how dare she insult me so. Oh look, still just me. With the aplomb of one brought up in the social milieu of a great city of the empire, you managed to carry on a one-sided conversation, moving from unanswered questions to amusing anecdotes and wry observations, but the more you spoke, the more nervous Ian became. She reached a jittery hand for her wine cup to moisten parched lips. At her touch, it exploded, sending liquid and shards across the room. Oh! Ian scurried to pick up pieces of glass, suffused with embarrassment. And I am nervous my Petal lashes out. Carrying on, you noticed a conspicuous lack of metal jewelry in her costume, a sure sign of a practicing sorcerer. noting a spreading spot of blood upon her coat from an errant shard. When the wound was pointed out, Erin stared for a moment, then made the fluid, dance-like motions of ritual casting. Lifting her coat, she picked the piece of glass, now lying on unblemished flesh, and sat it with the other remains of the cup. Fixing the flesh is simple. Priests of Loomis can fix books and those of Kasarul the eyes, but suddenly cups are beyond me. I suppose one could summon a demon, but well, the sacrifices involved would make it rather purposeless for a cup. Awkward silence swallowed this pronouncement, and your intended appeared content to sit in stillness indefinitely. This was interrupted when servants entered to supply chameton, wine, and assorted delicacies. The rustling presence provided only a brief interlude, however. You're not much for conversation, are you? I don't bite, you know, or I think we got off on the wrong foot. Oh, look, still just me. I'm sorry, in the monastery things are different, and my arcane studies left me little time to socialize. She gave a wistful sigh, as if the prospect of long days alone was... Excuse me. She gave a wistful sigh, as if the prospect of long days alone with scones were a source of much nostalgia. I was about to attain the seventh circle, you know, before my cousin died, and my father pushed me forward as a replacement. Once reread, I don't suppose they'll let me return. Once more she lapsed into silence, idly fingering a medallion of Beck, an aspect of Loomis. Concerned with theoretical underpinnings of reality, then as if a floodgate had been opened, Ian began to prattle on about the monastery and her life there as a holy oracle and ascetic. As the afternoon progressed and the beleaguered ex-priestess drank more wine to which she was unaccustomed, a story emerged. It centered on her father's ambition and one stroke... Wait. Oh, yes. It centered on her father's ambition to in one stroke make himself central to a new clan alliance, and bring a valuable daughter back home, where her psychic predictions could be used for profit and advancement within the politics of the empire. This plot was clear to you, but you had the feeling that Ayen, with her eyes fixed on the mysteries of Beck, was too far-sighted to see these machinations. The effect was like watching a Hema led to the slaughter, bleating and distressed and unsure why. It was at that moment that you offered to scuttle the marriage, freeing Ayen to return her solemn contemplations of the infinite. You did not know then how thwarting this injustice would earn the right hot hatred of her father and lead to assassins dogging your footsteps. But still there was obvious risk in upsetting the plans of your family, lineage, and clan. Why did you do it? Out of piety to the gods, it served my own ends, for the sake of the knowledge that would be lost, or out of charity. It's still just me, so I can still go with what I want. Such kindness! Ayen looked upon you as a savior, but her family looked upon you as a villain. Lifting the heavy pectoral from your shoulders in the gentle lamplight of your room, Mama Hale was all smiles. What do you think of your suitor? I'm sorry, but I won't consent to this marriage, or I mumbled polite affirmatives while scheming for a way out. Still just me. Mama Hale shook her head ruefully, looking down. That is your right, but it is never wise to upset the clan. Who will you be coming to when you need money for a promotion or ransom for some Koreani who has captured you in battle? The same elders whose wisdom you are flouting. She threw up her hands. I suppose it's pointless to argue with you. You found yourself standing the next morning before the assorted retarded mode cars, whitened priests, and fossilized bureaucrats that made up the eldest and highest status members of Clan Sea Blue present in Jakarta. There was much grumbling in your direction and giving of moralizing speeches. When the speechifying had begun to slow, one old bureaucrat, sleepily chewing on a tryst of Haneku leaf, motioned for you to speak. In a respectful tone and with brief honesty, you expressed your gratitude to the clan, but made clear that this arrangement was not something you would go through with. Some were unimpressed, others surprisingly sympathetic, still others clearly bored by the entire procedure. One elderly priestess raved dismissively and said, "At least this one is a soldier and of use. Why not grab one of the dozens who lay about till noon, then spend our rattling wine houses till dawn, and make limbs serve?" Though all the others seemed rather embarrassed by the remark. By the time you were dismissed, it was clear you had escaped the match, but also that you had burned goodwill in doing so, and should not return asking for more favors any time soon. You could only hope that in the years when you were away fighting in Yankor, this would all blow over, or dream that your victories there would be so great as to overshadow all youthful transgressions. The last time you saw your family in Jakarta, they were assembled in the atrium of your warm, familiar clan house. You all believed that the war would be against Yan Koreani, the fractious barbarians to the north, led by the traitorous Baron Ald. Your clan elders were grave. Each touched your hand or shoulder and asked Lord Hanala to watch over you and bring you home safe. Mama's eyes stood fiercely erect, radiating pride, as she struck her fist to her ceremonial breastplate, and saluted one officer to another. "Otulengba, all hail!" she shouted, and a ragged chorus of your clansmen joined her. Mama Hale, her eyes red from crying, tried and failed to give you a carefree smile. Your followers cradled her in their embrace, making vain, comforting noises as she wept into the circle of their arms. They nodded to you and wished you well, blinking furiously. I hugged Hale, tears in my own eyes. "I'll make you proud." Conscious of the dignity of the occasion, I saluted them all crisply, or, "Thank you all for coming to see me off." I began launching into an impromptu speech. Still just me. As you pressed her to you, she cried even harder. Then, coming to herself, she dried her eyes and tugged at the folds of your uniform. "Here," she sniffed, "you're creasing it. I won't have my beautiful soldier looking less than perfect." Brother Guyan pressed an amulet into your hand, "for protection," and grinned. Bring me home a dozen pretty slave girls once you've conquered the north. Not too hairy. And this one of your elderly aunts piped up. Just one slave boy for me would suffice. I like hairy men, causing much laughter and breaking the somber mood. Sayi was the last to embrace you. With a passionate kiss, she whispered, "Return to me," and smiled through tears. Interlude. Battle years. Now a decade later, you sit in your palanquin facing battle against your own countrymen in a siege against a Sulyani city. The northern enemy you set out to fight has become the ally of the official government. While the legions of the empire have been divided between princes and princesses, each vying to be the one to defeat their usurping brother and crown themselves. From seaside Jakala, Prince Virishkala has declared himself the protector of the south, keeping the usurper's soldiers at bay and maintaining peace and prosperity within his territory, but loudly proclaiming a disinterest in becoming emperor. You remember being on your first solo mission as a new Kasai, your Surum pushing through the mountains of Yankor, clearing a path for the main army to follow, exhausted in the thin air and low on supplies, when a breathless runner from the body of the main legion brought word of the old emperor's death at the hands of his youngest son. The last cask of spirits was broken, and the soldiers sat around thin, smoky fires to drink to his memory, singing sad songs in the clear, cold desert night. A week later, the official messenger arrived from Prince Jichon, now titled Emperor Eternal Splendor, declaring peace with Yankor and recalling all units of the 15th to Jakala. The spindly man, bedecked in the copper of Sarku, delivered the proclamation with an air of command. I was a soldier, I followed my orders. I sent him on his way with empty promises and held the position until I heard from General Bashun High Sanmarin. I told him I did not recognize his authority, or I killed the traitorous messenger. Oh, look, still just me. Amidst the grumbling of your Surum, you retreated back through the pass, giving up ground it had taken you a month and many lives to secure. General Bashurin, his Sanmarin, met you in the lowlands with the entire strength of the army. Orders have come in from Prince Virishkala. We're to march towards Akala as slowly and indirectly as possible, flying the prince's banners the whole way. It's a stall. All of the princes know this road leads to war, but none want to draw first blood. He snorted, showing what he thought of that. A year later, you were skirmishing with the false emperor's soldiers over grain fields under the direction of Naroman, now promoted to Dretlan. Less for competence than for the value of his family connections. Word came of the birth of Prince Sugayan's wife, two strong girls, whose birth cries woke the clan house. Mama Hale named them Thunder and Lightning. She says it's so Lord Karakan won't favor them in this time of war, but we all know it's because they're going to keep us up all night and destroy everything in their path. I asked leave to visit my new children. I sent a letter and gifts, or I didn't care much for babies. You added congratulations to your regular update on life at the front. What did you send? a pair of stuffed Slen beasts dressed in blue dawn clones, a war drum taken off a dead Koryani soldier, matching silver anklets bearing blue pass beads, symbols of protection, or a faded and battle-worn standard of the Legion of the Ruby Hand to hang on the wall of their room. Let's just go with what I usually go with. A very cuddly and appropriate gift for which Mama Holly would be forced to use so many outfits in years to come. Seasons turned, alliances shifted. Allies became enemies or enemies allies. And the only constant was war. Your serum grew from fresh-faced adolescents to scarred veterans. And when friends died, as many did, and new boys or girls were sent to fill their places, you shook your head in wonder at their youth and naivety. The most youthful and naive of all was little Rihanna, Dritlin the Roman's Batman. Drafted, despite her low birth, in a time when anyone who could hold a sword and shield was welcome in the lines. She'd grown into a giant of a girl, putting on muscle and height at an alarming rate, and was always hungry in those lean years. No one was more devoted to the Legion of the Ruby Hand's honor than the cobbler's daughter, who felt honored to merely march in its ranks. You led your soldiers through dry deserts and pestilential swamps, learning more of warfare in 5 years of constant battle than you could have in decades of peacetime. Then, in the summer of 2365, you traveled along the road to Sangmire. Just gonna check my schedule before I continue or end the stream. I suppose I can go for another page or two. Chapter 3, The Battle of Sangmire. Sangmire, summer of 2365 AS. Sangmire has been under siege by your forces throughout all of a hot and dusty summer, with supply lines cut and a large civilian populace trapped inside. The defending General Sekun Hikanuma Hakunama of the Legion of Scounds of Brown has decided to throw the dice and take to the field of battle before his troops are too weak from hunger and disease to lift their weapons. This morning a messenger from him arrived, and terms of the coming battle were spelled out. Now you join the other officers in sumptuously appointed tent to discuss strategy. Dejaya Hekaruluma of the Legion of the Blue Peak is surrounded by her Dritlan and Kasai, including one familiar-looking noble who keeps casting glances in your direction. Though many have joked that your General Bashun Hassanmarin and Dejaya Hekaruluma must be twins because of the closeness of their friendship, you have only met her a handful of times, and on those occasions felt awkward in her presence, sure of some hostility on her part. She let She lays out a plan to employ the two mighty gauntlets of Haruga, a formation in which two small but powerful units wait upon the flanks of the main battle in order to take advantage of enemy weaknesses during the fight. The Legion of the Ruby Hand will be divided in half under the direction of its two Dritland to fulfill this key role. As a Kasai, you will direct your serum of 400 soldiers as part of the White Gauntlet under Dritland the Roman. Okay, that's enough for today. I am Brian Croy Dragon signing out. Stay shrey.